Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the live in-person and live Zoom worship of the Universalist Unitarian Church of Riverside. Our opening hymn this morning is "When Your Heart is in a Holy Place," and that is number 1008 in the teal hymnal, which I don't know, do we have the teal hymnals in the? Okay, all right. And it's 1008. So 1008. Please feel free to sing as the Spirit moves you, but only with a mask on. Stand in body or spirit and join us in singing hymn 1008, when our heart is in a holy place. Thank you for joining us here in person, and thank you for joining us remotely by Zoom, where we will continue live streaming and posting these services on our YouTube channel for our virtual attendees. I'm Tinka Friend, a member of the worship committee, and I will be your worship associate this morning. Other members of the worship committee include Alec Peck, Our music coordinator, he's running the sound system and he's trying to coordinate everything and doing a wonderful job. We welcome you to join us this morning with an open mind and an open heart, but with muted electronic devices, please. Our Unitarian heritage calls us to recognize the inherent good of all persons, while the Universalist part of our tradition encourages us to extend love and acceptance to all people. You are welcome in this congregation, whatever your gender identity, your racial identity, your faith tradition, or class. Our principles call us to affirm the worth and dignity of every individual, to accept one another, and to foster each other's spiritual growth. We are happy you are here with us today. Although our doors are open, the pandemic is not over. So while we are in the sanctuary, please be aware and wear your masks while singing. Before we move into the service, there are a few announcements we would like to share. We will mention several websites, email addresses, and phone numbers. At the end of the service, we will leave up a slide with all this information, and it is available on our website. So the first one is to join us for the semi-annual congregational meeting next Sunday, November 6th at noon. And the first Sunday lunch will be served after that service in the parish hall. The theme's going to be sandwiches. Donations are appreciated and will be contributed to the church fund. Yard sale. The yard sale will be held this Thursday, which is November 3rd, through Saturday, November 5th, from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Linda and Kate will be setting up in the parish hall on Thursday, November 3rd at 10 a.m. and Friday at 6 a.m. We would appreciate assistance from anyone who is able and available with the setup on Thursday morning, especially with moving boxes downstairs from the second floor of the annex. The yard sale itself will be held on Friday and Saturday from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. with the packing up on Saturday afternoon. Please call Linda if you can help in any of these days, even if it's only for an hour or two. We appreciate your participation in this fundraising event. Now, the next week after, the week after the yard sale, is November 13th, Sunday. And during our November 13th service, we will be welcoming those who have recently joined our membership. So we have not done this since the COVID pandemic started. So we are inviting all new members who joined between 2018 to the present to please attend. There will just be a short ceremony of welcome for you. The 2022 Mission and Festival of Lights will be held from November 25th to December 31st. Downtown light displays will be illuminated from 5 to 10 p.m. And our church, UUCR, will be open to the public during the festivals. Donations are welcome of snacks, bottled waters, and individual packets of hot chocolate. Please see Robert or Avery for details. And they're out there right now. And my last announcement is those of you who came in after I came up here possibly did not pick up one of the packets that we have on a little table on the way in. So if you didn't and you want to get that either now or after church, please do so. It corresponds with what we're talking about today. So now, after all those announcements, I invite you to sit back, take a slow, deep breath, As we move into the worship space and time, and you are welcome to read with me the mission statement of our church. Our mission is to foster a diverse religious community that celebrates life, affirms the individual, encourages spiritual growth and open thought, and works to advance social justice and environmental sustainability. Now, today, we are happy to welcome a guest speaker, Reverend Bill Heller. Reverend Bill was ordained as a Unity minister in 2009. He served several ministries at Unity churches on the East Coast until returning to Himmett's Unity Church in 2017. While completing his role in church ministry in 2020, Reverend Bill continues to lead study groups and offers services at various churches. Reverend Bill also co-authored the book, Unity and a Course in Miracles, which was published in 2016. Bill was born and raised in the Detroit suburbs. At age 15, his family moved to the Bay Area. Previously, Bill's career was corporate finance in the high-tech field. And Bill has 4 children who reside in San Jose, Humboldt, Maui, Hawaii, and Durango, Colorado. His eldest daughter is the mother of his 3 grandchildren, and he and his wife, Gloria, reside in Hemet. The service this morning is titled, A Call to Dismantle Racism. The UUA's 8th principle is the call, or proposed 8th principle, is the call to support the dismantling of racism. The call has gone out and UUA committees are responding. Principle 8, currently in its development stage, addresses a growing awareness and commitment to dismantling racism in the UU community, in our country, and for that matter, around the world. Our mission of spiritual wholeness calls for an internal inquiry to explore our personal perspectives on racism. How can we support one another in this endeavor? Well, today, Reverend Heller will guide us in answering this question and to discover what opportunities exist here in Riverside to support us in this effort. We have 2 lightings of sacred flames. The first is the Occupied Indigenous Peoples Remembrance Candle. The second is the lighting of our own chalice, a symbol of our faith. Nick, would you do that for me? When it's time, I'll let you know. We walk upon the traditional territories of diverse and sovereign peoples, the original people of this land. And these people continue to cry out for justice and self-determination. This spot that we occupy was first the sacred space of several groups of indigenous peoples, including the Cahuilla, the Cupeño, and the Serrano. We, the Universalist Unitarian Church of Riverside, light this sacred flame as the stewards of this sacred and holy place. We are blessed with a space and an opportunity to strive out our common principles, to bring justice and equity and compassion into our daily lives, to resist all that threatens the earth and her people, and to be a part of a world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. Let these thoughts carry us forward as we journey and worship together. Today's reading for the chalice lighting is Create a Just World by Tinka Friend. Come into this circle of love and justice. Come into this place of holiness and mercy. Come into this community of fairness and forgiveness. Come into this time of soul searching and understanding. Come all together and create a just world. We have a tradition at UUCR to welcome those who are visitors or perhaps returning after some time away. We know it can be uncomfortable to stand up and speak in front of others. So I will now ask for a volunteer from someone who has been here a while to tell us your name and how you found out about our church. We ask you to please be close to the mic, speak directly into it, and very clearly so everyone can hear. However, be aware that you will be visible on our Zoom camera and in the recording of this service, which is posted online. So do we have any church members who would like to volunteer? Okay, come on down. Thank you. Okay, go try it again.
Good morning. My name is
Closer.
Okay. Good morning. My name is Sandra Verhagen, and I found this church by accident. I was looking for another speaker, and I came in here, and Matthew was talking. I liked what he had to say, so I stayed. And it's been about 10, 12 years.
Thank you. Okay, so that's how it's done. If you're new here, a visitor, or even an old friend, please raise your hand so that you can stand and come up to the mic in the front of the pulpit right there. And if there's anyone online who would like to introduce themselves, also please raise your hand and we will call on you by Zoom. So please let us know who you are, where you are from, and how you found out about us. Anyone? Could you see if you can move them right back just a little bit? You may have to move it up. You're tall.
Hello, my name is Evelyn Everhart, and I found out about this place actually through a lot of different places. One was I was in a political group in college called the 28ers, and I found about this place through Matthew Snyder. And then I worked at Truevolution, which is a nonprofit here in downtown Riverside, and we would do some of our events out in the front. So I met the people here just kind of through that. And during the summer, I'm a Buddhist, by the way, so I'm looking for different religious groups to be a part of. And Matthew suggested, why don't you just try going there for once, since you know it exists? I was like, okay. So here I am.
All right, well, welcome, welcome. And one thing you will find out is that we have people who follow many faith traditions that come to our church. And we have UU Buddhists, we have UU atheists, we have UU agnostics, we have UU humanists, we have UU pagans, UU Christians. So it's a wide variety. In this faith, we don't have to everybody follow the same faith path to the divine. All we do, I mean, what brings us together is our covenant and the covenant of our 7 principles, which are on the wall. So that's what we ask of people who come to covenant, to be in right relations with themselves, with each other, and with whatever they deem to be greater than themselves. Is there anyone else?
Hi, I'm Camille. I am actually not from Riverside, but I've been here for about 4 years or so. I found this church through the internet, basically. I used to go to the one in Long Beach, and I really liked it. And I went until I moved from Long Beach, and I've been wanting to try this one out and just have been slow on that. And today I was like, look, go, just go. So now I'm here. Yeah.
Well, welcome. We're glad you're here. Thank you. And I also love the UU Church of Long Beach. They had a very nice pagan group there that I would. Okay, anyone else? Is there anyone online that would like to introduce themselves? Adam? No? Okay, well, for any other new guests who maybe didn't want to come up and introduce themselves, please join us for socializing and coffee hour after the service. We would love to chat with you in the parish hall. Did you guys pick up a pamphlet on your way in? A packet? So we would love to chat with you out in the parish hall afterwards. And out there, you can also find our visitors book. Please leave your name before you leave so that we know you were here, and leave your contact information if you want to know more about upcoming events. For those online, the best way to get added to the mailing list is to email the office at admin@uuchurchofriverside.org. And we are now for our next hymn. Our hymn is number 121, We'll Build a Land, and it's in the gray hymnal. So 121. Feel free to sing as the Spirit moves you, but please, again, only with a mask on, stand in body or spirit and join us in singing 121, We'll Build a Land.
Is ours all morning. Oh, we'll build bold. Come build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, made and create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. Come build a land where the mantles of praises resound from spirits one faint and one's weak, where arms of righteousness stand toward people. Oh, we'll build a land, my people we seek. Come build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, made and create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream.
Thank you. This portion of our service is to support our beloved historical church. And this can be done in several ways. In addition to the weekly collection, you may send your checks to the church address, which is shown here. However, PayPal is currently not functional, so please bear with us while we solve this technical issue. Stater Brothers Market gives our church a rebate on Stater grocery cards, which we will have in church each Sunday for you to buy. You get the full value, and the church also receives a percentage for free. So see our treasurer to purchase the gift cards. Please donate as the Spirit moves you and by whatever method works best for you. And thank you for your generosity. And to those who give of their time and their talent, thank you for your generous care and attention. So Nick and Bill, would you be the ushers today and come forward to receive the collection? And did anyone bring any weekly food or hygiene donations for the community? Okay, let me explain that a little bit. Every Sunday, we ask for you, if you feel it in your heart, to share what you have, because whatever your abundance is could be more than someone else's. And so if you feel free to share that and bring in non-perishable food items or hygiene items or anything like that, and then we will collect them. Thank you for whatever generous contribution you've made. Our next hymn is 402, From You I Receive. It's also in the gray hymnal. Please feel free to sing as the Spirit moves you. And in stand in body or spirit and join us in singing the hymn, From You I Receive.
Together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live.
And now I would like to welcome Reverend Bill Heller speaking to us on the call to dismantle racism.
Well, let's see, is this the mouse for that? Thank you. Take a few moments here. Whoops. Okay. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us. Pleasure to be here. I just want to add one note that just might help everybody as a reminder. You get an extra hour break to prepare for next week's service, as well as for the lunch afterwards. That's when we kick back into regular savings time, just so you can keep that in mind. You have that extra hour in the morning. So the message here, the call for dismantling racism. Is this truly a healing journey for all of us? I suggest that racism is a matter that does affect everyone. It has played a role since our inception, since the foundation of this country, and even before. Throughout all of our history, some form of it has occurred. Racism, in whatever perspective you have of it, has been in our lives. And it has served to separate, to differentiate ourselves from one another and through our lives. When Christ Jesus said, When Christ Jesus said, you got it, thank you. Love one another as you love yourself. Was anyone excluded? Hardly. Yet within the human consciousness, something has gone awry. What justifications were forced? What justifications or beliefs allow for the splitting off of different races? And in your heart, is there a call for some to become involved in the healing of this? I'm grateful to be here today. I'm grateful for this opportunity to focus on this and to join the Visit Unitarian Universalist community. The discussion, I understand, is under the way in terms of the preparation, the completion of the eighth principle coming into being. Thank you for this forum today and for the opportunity to forward this discussion. I'd met two of your members previously, Adam and Tinka, through a community focused on anti-racism. I'll get into that a little later on in the talk. But they also in turn reintroduced me to UUA and what is unfolding here in the expansion of the focus on addressing principle, or the eighth principle. Perhaps I have something to offer to you today as well. The question that I've got for you is it in your heart to become involved? And would this serve you personally, as well as your community and our country? I'm a minister of the Unity Church, of the Unity faith. And here we believe that every one of us are on a spiritual journey of awakening that's occurring within each of us. I'd suggest that this is an aspect of that, not only for us individually, but for the world at large. I want to give you some brief background about my journey, about how I got here. In August of 1990, I had an experience that turned my life around. I was up in the Santa Cruz Mountains in despair. I was filled with rage, with fear, with grief, and with loss. And I was just letting the mountains know about it. I was raging as I was walking through a rainy day up in the mountains. You know how rare that would be for the August timeframe. But here it was pouring rain. After a while in this, I was exhausted. And I stopped for a moment. And in that moment, I felt a sense of quiet. In that stillness, I began to feel a peace that I had not felt before. And I had a feeling, and the words that came through for me was that all that you're dealing with will be resolved in a matter of time. And I just allowed that to soak in and bask in that light. I noticed that none of the rain was falling on me at that moment. And shortly after that, it stopped. And what I was left with was a view, a trail through the redwoods. And during that time, I felt a peace and a love for myself that I never recall ever having felt before. I'd say now it was not coming from my head, but instead coming from my being. And I so appreciated it. I spent that time savoring that and just extending love to my children as well throughout that. Towards the end, I found myself in this place of just wondering, is this you, God? And I didn't know one way or the other. I just knew I wanted more of this. Well, that was but a start for me. I didn't expect it to be, but over the next period of time, I began finding myself seeing the world differently, looking at it more from an accepting, more from an inquisitive place than I had ever before, more peaceful and more trusting of what's unfolding. What followed from that, at one point I realized, I looked back and I said, That must have been a spiritual awakening experience that I had had that particular day. And I'm clear that it was now. It was such a gift. So I went back into Christianity. I went back to my Methodist faith, and I began reading the Bible once again. But it wasn't long before I was coming up with the same struggles that I had when I left the Christian faith at age 15, 25 years earlier. But at the same time, I was still having more of these spirit-filled experiences, more acceptance, more of a warm reaching out to others and making new friends who were guiding me in a new light, in a new manner of recognizing and knowing the presence of God within me and within all of us. Since then, as you know, I've become a Unity minister. I was ordained in 2009, and I've served in Unity churches on the East Coast and more recently here in Hemet, on my way to being here today. While at Hemet, it became clear for me a church ministry was not my path, but my ministry still is. And that's part of what I'm involved in here today. For instance, my ministry now includes addressing racism, doing what I can and what I can with others to promote, to continue to move on throughout our lives and produce the healing that we are so longing for. And as I began to get involved into the anti-racist movement, what I began to realize is how much I don't know. And in addition to what I don't know, what biases were comfortable for me? That is, what sort of biases that I had that were promoting separation and blocking any look deeper? What was going on in it that I was comfortable with and dealing with and living in that state? Because I ultimately recognize that my inner work, my inner discovery is what is essential to make a difference as I wish to. So along those lines, I learned recently about the 8th principle for the Unitarian Universalist Association. Building a diverse, multicultural, beloved community that dismantles racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions. Am I preaching to the choir? Probably. And I apologize to that, but I just want to emphasize that I appreciate that and I'm grateful for what you folks are doing as far as how this is unfolding through the rest of our country and the world, where matters of racism and any sort of oppression are being addressed. While I don't study, I'm not practicing with the Unitarian Universalist community, I certainly do honor you and celebrate what you're doing and honor your commitment to forward eliminating racism. I see in reading the 8th principle that here's the call for additional focus and actions to be taken. And I question you now, what is it that you might have to offer to support that? I want to go back now and speak about some of my spiritual foundation that I've come to know and accept that led me to the ministry and to my life going forward. I now know we are God's creations, and I also know that we are never separate from God. Yet we've believed we've been separate. That is the source of all darkness within this world, period. If you can take that away from today. I hope you can just accept that message. Jesus showed us our true power. It's far beyond what we consider. It's rooted in love and the Christ that we share. This is what's oftentimes referred to as the agape love, the love of all, the love of wholeness, the love of being. And there's a line from the Bible, you reap whatever you sow. This is in effect the law of cause and effect, brought forward within, as stated in the Bible, but through so many faiths, so many theologies, we recognize the emphasis on cause and effect as the source of being. But what I would like to add to this is to recognize that this cause and effect begins with our thoughts, because it's our thoughts and our beliefs that precede our action. It's our thought process of what we're thinking and believing where the correction is called for. So some points relative to this. Next one is the message about forgiveness. I see true forgiveness as different than what I'd say the world is seeing it. We think of having to forgive others for what they have done or forgive whatever a situation is unfolding. I suggest the true forgiveness that Jesus was talking about, it lies in our willingness to forgive our mistaken beliefs. Those beliefs that have forwarded the belief in separation. I also live by this credo that there are but two emotions, love and fear. All expressions of love are linked to God. They are a win-win. They bring a win-win situation to all involved and to all of us as one, as God's creation. All aspects of fear are rooted in separation. That is, what do I need to do to be separate from others? In any form, in any manner. This is what we're looking at as what needs to be healed. Forgiveness is a means of us recognizing our thoughts within that lead us or keep us stuck in some dark or separate place, to bring us together as one. Remember now the lines that Jesus gave us as far as commandments. You shall love your God, the Lord your God, with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. And secondly, you shall love your neighbor as you love yourself. When we look at those, on these two commandments hang all the laws and principles. But how does any form of racism or prejudice match these statements? Doesn't your neighbor include everyone? So I want to just take a moment and be the outsider looking at the Unitarian Universalist community and just acknowledge what I know of you. Your desire, your knowledge of your inherent goodness in you as well as in everyone. And your desire to bring that forward, to express this in the world. And that these statements are embedded in your presence. And my guess is that feeling, that sense within you is what brought you to the UU community as it has. You've striven for an upliftment in your consciousness, in your community, and in all you reach. And isn't that drive within each of you? We're here to encourage it and empower it. Again, the statement, building a diverse, multicultural, beloved community that dismantles racism and other oppressions in ourselves and institutions. Thank you. I know it's but a matter of time before that is fully known and accepted. Thank you. So let me ask, you see this picture, let that symbolize what we're looking for. In your principles unfolding, let me ask you personally, is elimination of racism important to you? And have you found a means to become involved, to participate? Are you making a contribution that you wish? Or do you struggle perhaps with knowing how to participate? Is that uncertainty leaving you reluctant to get involved? Are there beliefs from your culture, your upbringing, that you're struggling with? Perhaps matters such as these are ripe for revisiting, for seeing light in a light that is a means for healing, for forgiving these, and to be able to look again. I've got a book that I'm introducing to you. Oh, before we go there, as I asked that last question a moment ago, is there something that's holding you back? Is there something that's coming up for you in this regard? Are there beliefs from your culture, from your upbringing that you are struggling with? Perhaps matters such as these are ripe for revisiting, for seeing in the light as a means for healing. Should you find these issues, I would ask you to observe these within you and be gentle with yourself. We're not asking for guilt here. Guilt brings fear, it brings shame, it brings judgment. Instead, have compassion for yourself. With those upbringings that we've had, you didn't know better. And you were more concerned about other personal matters in your day-to-day for the most part. Forgiveness from your heart is what is called for. I ask this because I found the need to recognize what beliefs I had been raised with and were embedded within me. I look at teachings from my parents and from my grandfather, who seemed to accept that racism was just the way things are. And being white and being raised in a white community, I would know of people of color only as I was supposed to think of them. I was supposed to know them. There's been much in that for me to realize and to forgive and to move on. To that, I introduce Robin DiAngelo. Robin DiAngelo is a white educator focused on anti-racism. She's written a book called White Fragility: Why It's So Hard for People to Talk About Racism. Can I get a show of hands of those who are familiar with this book? Great, thank you. She says so much and she covers so much ground. I've just picked a handful of different quotes that I would like to speak to. Perhaps you can appreciate. One of her quotes was, "When we try to openly and honestly talk about race, white fragility quickly emerges as we are so often met with silence, defensiveness, argumentation, certitude, or other forms of pushback. These are not natural responses. They are social forces that prevent us from attaining the racial knowledge that we need to engage more productively. And they function powerfully to hold the racial hierarchy in place." Another one she gives us. "When we try to talk genuinely and openly and honestly about race," "racism is a society-wide dynamic that occurs at the group level. When I say that only whites can be racist, I mean that in the United States, only whites have the collective social and institutional power, that including the legal power, and privilege over the people of color. People of color do not have this power and privilege over white people. It's not equal." Robin goes on to say, "I was raised in a society that taught me that there was no loss in the absence of people of color, that their absence was a good and desirable thing to be sought and maintained, while simultaneously denying that fact." She goes on to say, "That attitude has shaped every aspect of my self-identity." She's found this within her life on an ongoing basis that she's had to wrestle with and struggle with. And I would agree with her in that regard from my own experience. And one more. I've been engaged, she says, "I've been engaged with this work in a range of forms for many years." Sorry, folks. Back to the statement about white fragility again. It's a state in which even a minimum amount of racial stress in the habitus becomes intolerable, the triggering of a range of defensive moves. These behaviors, in turn, reinstate racial equilibrium. What is racial equilibrium? Keeping things the way that they are. But we're after change, aren't we? We're after progress. And in Robin's concluding statement, she says, "I've been engaged in this work in a range of forms for many years, and I continue to receive feedback on my stubborn patterns and unexamined assumptions. It is a messy, lifelong process, but one that is necessary to align my professed values with my real actions." She also points out that it has been deeply compelling and transformative for her. So I ask you, what's in your heart? Do you have a feeling, an urge for action? Do you want to learn more about racism, its roots, and how it is perpetuated in our society? Is something stirring within you in this regard. If so, we've got a number of different opportunities. When you arrived here today, you were to receive some flyers that we have that show you the means of being available to contribute to the anti-racist program. One flyer is about the American Institute of, the Anti-Racist Institute of Riverside. There are others there that are listed that you can look into as well. And as mentioned earlier, another group has been formed, initiated by Adam. It's called the White People of Faith Against Racism. We're presently a small group, a mixture of different churches, different denominations, people from different groups, but we intend to grow. And I'm going to ask, could the members, any members of that group who are here, please stand? Of course, that's Adam and Tinka and Donna. Thank you. Donna, by the way, just returned from Europe last night, and she made it a point of wanting to be here to support this time. Thank you, Donna. So we do a number of things. We talk about the different activities that are going on. We perhaps even questions matters that we believe or beliefs that we're coming to realize. Presently, we're also reading a book, sharing a book called The Sum of Us by Heather McGee. It's a phenomenal work of art showing the roots of racism and how ultimately, as she says, what racism costs everyone and how we can prosper together as the byline. So thank you for this. Thank you for joining us. Didn't even give you the slots that we just talked about. Whoop. Well, I have as I had just mentioned, the flyers that we have available, please make sure you pick up a copy, the sheets that are available there. Also, you can check out antiracist.riverside.org. And Donna, by the way, is very involved in that, and she can give you more information along those lines. I've spoken about our group, about the White People of Faith Against Racism, and that following the service, we'll have the Q&A session, the time for this to open this up as a dialogue for all of us. So I want to thank you all for being here, for joining us, for coming and sharing us in this time. Tinka? Shut that down.
So we're getting ready to sing our closing hymn, which is Amazing Grace. And it's number 205 in the gray hymnal.
Coming up here. Thank you.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
Please be seated. And we want to thank you, Reverend Heller, you can go ahead and come up in case we have any questions. Thank you for coming and speaking with us today. And we have those of you who want to stay here and participate in a question answer or just to share anything that came up for you, please do that. Those of you who wish to leave can go ahead. And, so is there anyone that wants to, oh, I'm sorry. I am so sorry. We need your meditation. Your closing meditation.
Okay, thank you, thank you. All right, so to close this today, what I'd like to do is ask everybody to just take some time now to relax into this space. And when you're comfortable, simply close your eyes. And move to that place of quiet. And focusing on the presence of God with us always. Settle into this space. Relax and remember who you are and how much you are loved. And perhaps now you can bring a loved one to your conscious awareness. And extend love to them in this moment. Feel that love within you, allowing it to be. And feel that love coming back to you as well. And now I would ask you to expand that space. I would ask you to include a person of color. Or for those of color, a white person. Connect with them as you have with your loved one. And see and know the love that is real, that is eternal. You may share with them. And now I would ask you to envision that person who you brought into your space. Envision them holding one of your children. see the love and the innocence that is there. Thank you. Recognize that connection that is possible because that is our reality. Feel that and bring that forward into your life in this sacred day. Thank you all. Amen. Thanks. Blessed be.
Thank you. So thank you, Reverend Heller, for sharing your valuable time and insight with us here at UUCR. It is sincerely appreciated, and we hope that we might see you again. So now that is our 10 to 15 minute, either a question answer or just sharing what came up for you or what, how you feel about this topic. And is there anyone who wants to share anything that came up for them or ask any questions of Reverend Bill?
Good morning. I grew up in North Idaho, all solidly white, but I was raised liberal. My dad knew a lot of friends from the Bay Area, and one lady who taught special ed on tough kids who she said she never turned her back on, and she hoped that they wouldn't end up in prison, although she said most all of them did. She informed us, she said, when I talk to people, I see the person first and their race or everything else, the hue of their skin or anything else about them, I see that second. I thought, that's curious. Well, having moved to this area, been here at least 30 years, I too do that because I found that anything else doesn't serve me well. I've come across numerous examples of people who I had a preconceived notion of, and it turned out to be absolutely wrong. And so that's what I do. I look into the person's eyes. I try to discern the content of their character, as Martin Luther King used to put it. And I see that first. And the other thing that I do is I'm always humbled and ready to learn the fact that I know almost nothing, especially about other people, especially in terms of race. Every time I see another movie, for example, it's produced by African Americans, I go, oh, I didn't know that. So as I do that, I'm humbled and I'm ready to learn the fact that I'm an idiot on so many topics, but I want to learn. And as I say, I look into people's eyes and I read the person first and whatever else they are, male, female, Asian, Native American, Black, Caucasian. See that second, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, thank you. Also, thank you, Walt, for pointing those out. Yeah, there's, and of course, it's Halloween weekend this weekend, and you know, films like Get Out and other ones have been really popular by Jordan Peele. So, you know, maybe check one of those out. I think it'd be really interesting to maybe have a service on the history of blaxploitation and the history of Black filmmakers. I think that'd be really interesting to learn about. But and thank you, Reverend Bill, for speaking for us today. As you were speaking, I was thinking a lot about what you said. It reminded me of these concepts of emergence and sort of manifestation, how the holy or the spirit or God is sort of it's sort of in all things, but when you can't sort of break things down atom by atom and look for something holy inside of that. It sort of is emergent out of it is sort of made, you know, God is made manifest in us and in everything, but you can't sort of dismantle it and find it in there. It's some kind of emergent property that sort of comes out of that, in the same way that racism is sort of this emergent system which has come out of our individual relationships. And so if we try to think about only the individual, that's sort of how you end up in this conservative mindset of, well, we can just all, you know, if all the races are equal, then we don't need things like affirmative action because all you have to do is respect each individual person equally, and then that's all you have to do, right? But that is intentionally, in some cases, ignoring the fact that we have a history of racial violence and that we have a history that does distinguish quite heavily between the races, and we need to really acknowledge that emergent thing that comes out of all of that. Thank you.
Okay, I want to thank you very much for this service. I thought it spoke to me, spoke to my heart. And I, especially just on a personal level, I want to thank you for the closing meditation. Because for me, somehow that brought it all home at a heart level, where the images I had in my mind were very vivid of people that I knew. And yeah, it was just a very powerful experience and felt very healing to me. So thank you very much. Thanks.
I'm going to try not to be too wordy, and that's difficult because I talk a lot. Personal experience. When I was raised in a community which was pretty white in the 50s and 60s, and there were stereotypes out there, a lot of them. Now those stereotypes are being broken apart if we're willing to realize that not every color means a specific thing. It goes by the individual. Taking it a step further, later on, I went into teaching, and with it, I started working with something called ELL, English Language Learners. When I went into it, I came in with my past history thinking, but it changed because I started realizing that the people who were coming to this class, the adults, were struggling to learn English because they wanted to be a part of the community, wanted to be a part of everything and not be excluded, and find a way to help their children know English so that they'd have the power of this language in a culture where English mattered to this culture. Okay, that's backstory on mine, but what I did learn was this. Those people, each one of them were individuals of worth. Each one was their own, looking into their eyes, like Walt said. You begin to realize each person has value. Now, you have to take it further and just not just realize that, but act on it. What I have done recently is found that there are places where one can contribute to those groups that are trying to get legislation going. Send money, send your action. Don't just talk it. Once you realize it, do something about it, and you individuals can do it. $20, $15, not a bunch, but you're taking action. So yes for you. Yes for each person becoming aware of the need to realize that we're all in it together. We could talk about the COVID virus and all of us in it together. We can talk about the issue of racism, but we're all in it together. As long as we're alive, we can make a difference. Any action physically, through your pocketbook, whatever it is, as long as we take action, we're not making a choice by doing nothing. We're making a choice by doing something, whatever we choose to do. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Adam, is there anyone online that wants to? Okay.
True confession time. I am a racist. I grew up in Parkersburg, West Virginia, in the 50s. I vaguely remember at some point being, I don't know, 7, 8 years old. And I was looking down the street as we drove through town, and it was like 3 blocks away was a Black person walking down the street. And I'm like, who's that? And, or I don't remember exactly what I said, but the answer was something like, well, that's their part of town. And that was all that was said. But clearly it marked for me a separation, a moment of seeing separation. It wasn't until I moved to California that I got into school with a lot of people of color. And it was very shocking to me, as everything had been all white up to then. In elementary school, I had a few male teachers, which was like way out, I thought, at that time. And then through my experience in the service, which was very integrated and was actively integrated, you know, I began to see my own sense of the things, the people may look different, but we're all doing the same thing. And especially after getting some education and life experience, you know, I've actively worked to not be the racist person I was raised up in. And I know there's still more work to do. It's still very hard for me. When I approach somebody, I still see color first. And then I have to remind myself that that's not important. And then to get to know the person. I imagine it's going to be a struggle for the rest of my life, but I'm, you know, willing to continue to do what I can to change that.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me. To me, racism is not just for colored people, it's for all of that we are now born in this country. Asians, Chinese, Mexicans, Latinos, that we've been called. I don't speak Latin, I speak Spanish. But anyway, I found few times to be calling, oh, you Mexican, like somebody has no value. And what you do, you clean toilets? No, I'm a professional CPA. I went to university. I'm educated. I've been several times to Europe. But doesn't matter what you are, what your titles. To me, each person is a creation of God. to me is my sister, is my brother. I don't care the color. It doesn't matter to me. So racism is for division, separation that we put, or white people, even in my own country, they are racist to origin people. They are darker, they are not educated. I try to teach my people to love each one, to respect as a human being. And to me, it's not just the colored people, it's all, for all. All of us, we are creation of the supreme being, God. God in you, God in me. You my sister, you my brother. So to me, it's fantastic that my husband is doing. And all of you, they are part of that. But to me, it's not just colored people, it's everyone. There is no white, or they feel something between. That's not right. To me, I feel different. I feel love for humans. I feel angry when I see people in the 50s telling people, go back to Africa. That is not right. All of us, we have a right to live like all. We are children of God. I love you, all of you. Thank you. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Well, I want to thank everybody and remind you on the sheets of paper, one sheet is 4 organizations that you might want to check out. One of them, of course, is the one that Adam started. Another one is Anti-Racist Riverside, which Donna is a part of. And we got from Anti-Racist Riverside a guide to if we want to create like discussion groups or, with that kind of a thing. So I'm hoping that maybe either, enough of us here today or people from our community, from our religious community who hear the video or who are online, maybe we can come together. Maybe here at this church, we can start something to discuss about racism and the inherent nature of it in our society, and what can we as individuals and what can we as the church congregation do to combat it, to counteract it, especially since we need to, like I said, the UUA is looking at this as an 8th principle. So hopefully maybe we can get together and have a study group and pursue this farther. So thank you all for being here, and we have some refreshments, and let's continue or start some discussions out in our parish hall. Thank you.